Welcome to Fairy Stamper. Annie Collins here. Today we're creating this lovely fairy card. Let's go with the products I used to create this card. I used the fairy called Moana, and this is FHS 074. Fox, which is FHS 176. And Fairy-Scapes, which is FHS 109. I love that it has this beautiful art and all the vines here woven throughout. This is our Fairy-Scape background, and this is Starry Moonlight. I really like the fact that it looks like an alcohol ink background. And this is going to be our card base, which is a 110-pound A2 size card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And I'll be trimming down our cardstock here in a moment. First, we're going to bring in VersaFine, Clair, and Moana, and Nocturne. VersaFine, Clair, and Nocturne, and Ranger Detail embossing powder in gold. So here I am trimming down our background. This is again Fairy-Scapes Starry Moonlight, and I'm trimming it down about 1/8 of an inch shy of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I'm doing this because I'll be bringing in some cardstock, which is gold foiled cardstock, and that's about 80 pounds, to be a nice mat all the way around our card here. So there we have a nice little edge shining through. Next, I'm going to bring in my stamping platform so that we can stamp our Fairy-Scapes onto our background. Now, having a pre-done background makes it so much easy. It takes all that hard work out of making your own background. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my Fairy-Scapes in the background. I'm going to bring in my Nocturne ink, and I'm going to stamp my image. But since I'm embossing, I'm going to bring in my anti-static powder and brush it on really quickly so that I have none of my embossing powder sticks to where I don't want it to. So I'm going to ink up my image and stamp it, and I'll stamp it several times so that we have a nice crisp image. So here I go for my first stamp. I'm going to go ahead and give this a nice even pressure. I bring in my microfiber cloth just to give some pressure. Don't know where I put my eraser that I normally use. I think my hubby stole it thinking it was his for his dry erase board. He was in here helping me the other day. I think he was like, hey, I think that's mine, because he was moving his office around. Okay, so I've done that now a couple times. Now that it's nice and crisp, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my embossing powder. So let me move my platform out of the way for a moment. And here I'm bringing in, the Ranger Detailed Gold Embossing Powder. So I'm going to cover my entire gate, make sure it's completely covered, and then I'll heat set this with my heat tool. So I missed the spot right there, so I'm going to go ahead and hit it one more time. Dust off any of the extra and take away my embossing powder. I'm spilling it, so I'm going to move it on top of this paper here so I can get all the extra put back into the container. Cover it up and get it out of our way because I will make a mess. So I'm going to go ahead and bring in my heat tool, and you know your embossing powder is completely set when you see it go from this matte gold to a beautiful shiny gold. It takes a moment, and I like to heat from front and back to get a nice even coverage heat, and also to minimize the warping of my cardstock. So there you go, it's nice and heat set, and you want to make sure it's nice and smooth, no grainy gold, just a nice smooth gold. Okay, so now that our embossing powder is set, I'm going to bring in the stamping platform once again so we can stamp our images of Moana and her little fox friend. So I'm going to put our little fox friend here to the bottom left and Moana to the bottom right. I'm going to take a moment to nestle them just together, and they fit nicely, but I didn't want nicely really tight together, but I didn't want them too tight because then it looks like he's trying to nibble his ear, and yeah, It just looked weird. So, or maybe she's trying to kiss his ear. That would have been cute. Either way, I just gave them a little more space, making sure that Moana's wings were within the gate. Once I have that set, I'm going to get my platform lid, snap it on, and pick up my images so that I can go ahead and use our VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink once again to stamp our images. This card came together pretty quickly. Granted, it was because most of our background was already done for us with the Fairy-Scape background. So I'm going to go ahead and give even pressure, and I'm going to stamp this again several times. It's a solid stamp. I want to make sure I have a nice crisp image and all of my areas are filled in. So I'm using, my microfiber cloth to help me glide my hand across the lid. And give it one more time just to make sure I have all the little bits and pieces of her hair and wings on there. Once I do, I will remove this from the background, from the stand platform, and I'm going to heat set Moana and the fox just a little bit. I'm trying not to go over my gate because I don't want to melt too much of my embossing powder, but I want to make sure they're dry because VersaFine Clair takes a moment to dry, a few minutes, and I don't want to smear my card. Alright, so now I'm using some Barely Art glue to go ahead and adhere my top layer here to my layering background piece, which is the foiled cardstock. And yes, I know I used the complete piece of foil background. I didn't cut away the center. I normally do, but this time I just wanted to get my card done, and I have quite a bit of this foiled cardstock, so I'm not too worried about it right now. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere our card panel to our card base. I accidentally moved my top panel because I didn't let it dry, and it takes a little bit longer to dry on foil cardstock. It's a shiny surface and everything takes just a little bit longer to dry on that. So I open my card to apply even pressure without making sure I get any gluey fingers on the front of my card. Now for now for finishing touches, I'm going to bring in some some black gems, just to bring some of that black towards the bottom. Let's try that one more time. I'm going to bring in some black gems to bring some of that dark black towards the top of our card. I'm only going to apply 3. I have a large, a medium, and a tiny or a small. And I left some space in case I want to add a sentiment later on. But basically our card is finished. So we use VersaFine Clair and Nocturne, Ranger Detail Gold embossing powder. We used Fairy-Gate, Fox, and Moana to create our card today. But like always, I will have everything linked in the description box below for you. Thank you for being here, and I hope you found some inspiration.